All right. Hi, I'm Megan,
And I'm Savannah.
and we'll be presenting on Is Technology Too Distracting for the Classroom? Okay. All right. So, technology in the classroom has a big effect on students' attention deficits. Multitasking has significant effects on students' academic performance, and this is exemplified by numerous studies. So the average student nowadays uses digital devices for an average of 7.5 hours a day. But if multitasking on numerous digital devices is accounted for, that number turns into 10 hours and 45 minutes on average. 60% of students report that they do, in fact, multitask in class. Um, the Kaiser Family Foundation that performed a study that heavy media users, so students that would spend 16 plus hours using a digital device on average has significantly lower grades and frequent boredom, and were often a lot more unhappy than light media users. And on average, students generate 65 new tabs per college lecture during the lecture, with 62% of these tabs being irrelevant to the material. In the same experiment, students who used a laptop scored 50% lower than students who took notes in a notebook and like paper pencil method. Um, and those who were in view of someone using a laptop scored 17% lower than those not in view. Also, technology ranks as the number one distraction in classrooms, second to chewing loudly, and third to other people talking. So here is a graph from the American Psychology Association showing how technology has increased in adolescents, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade from 2008 to 2016, which just shows the significant amount of growth of technology in the classroom. All right, so the effects of multitasking, which is what I was talking about earlier, significantly lower GPAs on average. Another study shows significantly lower test scores. It was performed by a high text messaging group versus a low text messaging group during a 30-minute lecture. And those in the high text messaging group scored on average 10% lower. And another study showed that students lost 30% accuracy on a quiz when texting during class. And that is very common, as studies have shown, and increasingly more accessible in the classroom just because of the ease of access to it. So in addition to academic drawbacks, technology also has some social drawbacks. So technology kind of creates like a physical barrier between the student and the teacher, and studies have shown that it negatively affects how teachers view their students, because a lot of the time students who use technology more do poorer in class. So it's just kind of that stereotype that people using technology can actually have like a worse kind of relationship with their teacher, just kind of like an implicit bias. Um, a study from Gallup and others supports kind of this social disadvantage to students using technology. It also kind of weakens personal bonds between students just because it creates an all about me kind of egocentric perspective. Classmates or colleagues are kind of put on hold as they respond to text messages or calls during conversations. And studies have shown that like as technology increases, friendships and socialization decrease. And also a 2007 study reports a trend in the lack of empathy among students in middle schools among heavy media users. So the students who use more technology have less empathy. And then finally, what about e-textbooks as they're becoming more popular among students from elementary school to university age? So while there are disadvantages such as having embedded games and that kind of distract from learning, especially in elementary school learners. Students were found skimming the material to look for these embedded games or videos, and which takes away from the actual like lesson at hand. Um, ebooks are getting more increasingly heavy with distracting visuals, just so students are engaged, but they're not actually engaged in learning the material. They're engaged in looking at these graphics. E-textbooks also have the problem of not having an escape from notifications that pop up on your computer, which can also lead to lots of sidetracking and just increased distractibility, and also a vocabulary crutch. So people, instead of they just click on the word and gives them the instant definition instead of actually looking it up, which helps the vocabulary stick a little bit more and helps you memorize it better. However, there also are huge advantages to e-textbooks, which kind of bridges us into the next section of our presentation because of audio options, which is obviously helpful, and increased accessibility. Vocabulary help because it is more accessible for people who don't have other resources to look up vocabulary, which supports learning, and is an easy access of additional learning because you're already on the internet, and a lot of like hyperlinks or Google searches can give you easy, relatable information. All right.
So I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of technology. So initially, as times, the most valued attributes in the workforce shift over time with the occupational landscape itself. Our current era has like vast technological advancements, and skills like creativity and critical thinking are vital. Giving students opportunities to use technologies in high-level ways to reach academic objectives, like involving creating, making products, evaluating, or analyzing digital media, not only sharpens these skills, but makes the content the students are learning and the mode through which they learn it seem more relevant to their lives, which actually builds engagement rather than distracts the class altogether. Additionally, if textbooks or other analog tools are the only aids students are given to enhance their understanding while at school, some kids will ultimately be at a disadvantage. Technology allows for students of all levels of physical ability to interact with the class materials in the way they find the most comfortable, whether it be through the utilization of text-to-speech features, enlarging words and images, or simply using word processors to type. Beyond physical accessibility, technology makes knowledge acquisition accessible for all students, as it makes the classroom content available wherever they go. And this digital information is likely available in a format that they find the most useful based on their preferred learning style too. If a student finds it particularly hard to follow along in class during an oral lecture, they don't have to just miss this material altogether. The internet makes it so they can access it later on in the class if they need it for any assignments as allowed by the instructor. And finally, the use of technology in the classroom allows for students to take control of their learning. A sense of autonomy within the classroom is vital for students' academic success. And if kids are allowed to make choices about how they learn and in what way they showcase this knowledge, they become more invested in the learning process altogether. This is because they develop a sense of personal responsibility for their academic performance, and they cultivate a sense of self-efficacy that comes from being allowed to explore the modes of learning they're the most comfortable with and create products that they're proud of. Technology provides students with the tools to express their learning in nearly endless ways and allow students to work at their own pace, whether they end up spending longer amounts of time with material they find challenging or start deeper research into material that they found interesting and easier for them. Many students work with technology already, and it can open up a vast array of alternative pathways for learning, communication, and assessment, and it'd be wrong to completely limit access to these tools with their potential to, because they have the potential to sidetrack some students. So we can go to the next slide. So now I'm going to talk about how to properly integrate it in a way that's successful, and it's mostly rooted in Engestrom's extended activity theory. And like the main quote that sort of summarizes the theory is that equilibrium is an exception and tensions, disturbances, and local innovations are the rule and regime and engine of change. So putting tech in schools and incorporating it more into a lesson is a big change. So this theory says that there will be like a level of chaos that comes with it, a level of distraction, but like equilibrium is achievable. So as it concerns adapting to technology, the use for activities in the classroom and emphasis have been placed too much on the tools themselves. So only one aspect of the triangle that creates an equilibrium for like a successful activity within a group is the tool. So there's too much emphasis on the tool itself. Schools need to address the other aspects of the activities, which is classroom rules, community efforts to enforce these rules, and cultivate new tech-assisted teaching methods to engage students in the subject, and improve digital course materials that the students are comfortable with to reach a successful equilibrium. And then there's like this professor versus device divide where a lot of teachers are worried that they're like battling for dominance against the destruction of the tools, but it's sort of a false concept. Like if we view technology mediated learning as a socially mediated activity, like through the lens of this mindset, it offers many ways that we can alter one component of the pyramid and change the whole system. Rather than seeing distraction as a challenge, educators can see it as an opportunity to reflect upon and design their instructional approach to be more engaging and structured, because students will be less likely to be off track. Technology can be an important tool to build student engagement if students choose to spend time distracting themselves with the technology they're provided with. It speaks more to a faulty classroom environment and poor classroom management than it does to the educational value of the tools themselves. So if they are distracting, it's more to do with the structure of the class and the way that these other elements are not balanced than it is that these are innately poor educational tools, because they're very like important and like useful educational tools. We can go to the next slide.
Cool. So what Savannah was just talking about, having a productive classroom environment, that is the main solution to solving any of the issues and distractions that come along with technology. So some solutions that are proposed to keeping a productive digital kind of classroom is incorporating elements of active learning. So instead of just a teacher lecturing and students taking notes on a laptop, or students independently working on a online assignment, actually incorporating collaboration and something where students are more involved can be really useful. Also, teachers physically moving around the classroom instead of just standing in one place or sitting at their desk can also be helpful to keeping students on track and kind of just being there as a guidance for students using technology instead of just the instructor. And then finally, also creating technology related restrictions can also be useful in a classroom. So having certain set aside time to turn off devices or close laptop screens and just take a break from the digital online kind of world can also be helpful for just increasing a productive classroom environment.
And my conclusions were more just like a summation, which was like part of our jobs as educators is to prepare students for entering the job market. Thus, educators must do all they can to help their students be successful in the 21st century. And that includes exhausting all educational text-based resources, because tech-based resources and like the future is tech. And then complete bans on devices hurt students who use them to enhance their learning, such as taking notes and doing research. It also creates within the students the sense that we are out of touch with what's important to them, and that we don't trust them enough to take control of their learning and be responsible with the educational tech. And then finally, everyone can benefit from using technology in the curriculum, including the teachers, if teachers are taught how to successfully integrate it into the classroom. To prepare for integration, we must first teach ourselves how to use the technology, then how to teach with it, and we have to incorporate it, then how to monitor its use, and then finally we must teach these things to our students, how to monitor themselves, how to use it for themselves, how to use it to best enhance their learning.
And these are references